Welcome to the Sideload, where we're heading out to dinner just as an excuse to take photos. I'm your host, Will Sattelberg, and joining me this week is going to be Dom Preston. He is the news editor at The Verge. We're going to talk about his process covering news stories for The Verge, which obviously is a much more expansive list of categories than what maybe the usual 9-to-5 Google staff covers. We're going to talk about the long list of AI gadgets that made up his CES experience. It's a really fun conversation and a really fun piece that Dom wrote a couple weeks ago. And then perhaps the most fun portion of this conversation, how figuring out the status of where the Trump phone is in development became Dom's personal beat at The Verge. All of that, plus we're also going to talk about Dom's food Substack Braise and what it's like trying to balance writing as both a career and a hobby. It's a really good conversation. It was a blast having Dom on the show, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So without further ado, here's my interview with Dom. I am thrilled to welcome Dominic Preston to the show. He is the news editor at The Verge. I don't think I need to tell anybody listening to this what The Verge is. It is, it's kind of the biggest tech site in my opinion, and sort of has been since its launch in 2011. And obviously the history of This Is My Next and Gadget before that goes way back. Dom, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here.
And obviously you and I have our own history because we worked at AP at Android Police together for a time. We were just talking about that in the pre-show. But you have since become news editor for The Verge, which is just on its face feels very overwhelming, an overwhelming job to me, because all of my news gathering has been like very Google centric throughout my career, right? And so I've been able to like focus on this niche. I know you're familiar with this too, obviously. What's it like just expanding out into like, okay, now not just the entire tech field, but also like politics and adjacent policy and entertainment. Like it sort of feels like the modern culture as a whole is kind of what you're covering, like regardless of whether it is like, core technology news. So like what's that transition like for you?
Yeah, I mean, The Verge's coverage is hugely expansive, as you just said. I think it helped for me that before I was at Android Police with you, I worked at a site called Tech Advisor in the UK for about 7 years, which is a very generalist tech site. So It was tech. It's not as expansive as The Verge is. It had a bit of a smartphone focus. But at Tech Advisor, I did cover a bit of everything. And then for me, Android Police was the narrowing down to, now I just get to be a phone guy, and that's kind of fun.
Right.
And then Verge has been going back expansive again, and then going further. And like you said, suddenly it's tech, but it's also politics and a lot of entertainment stuff and pockets of tech I've never touched before. Like I was very open when I was interviewing for the job and going in, and they were, the kind of classic, like, what are your weaknesses? What are the bits you're bad at? And I just had to be like, I'm a Brit who lives in relatively central London. I don't know anything about cars. I don't own a car. I don't drive a car. I know nothing about American cars. I know nothing about EVs. I am hopeless as soon as anything gets there. So, I do have these areas I'm very aware of where I hit a limit, and I just have to kind of step away a little bit and be like, tag someone else and say, hey, you, please tell me what we're doing here. I have no idea.
Well, it's master of all trades, right? It's sometimes you want to, or jack of all trades, master of all trades. Sometimes you want to be, you want that like somebody with expertise versus like a generalist. Like there are roles for both, but it is good to be able to like lean back on somebody and be like, I don't really know what this subject is. I mean, God, I've owned 4 cars now, and I'm not sure I know much more than you. Like I could figure out an oil change. I think I'm not sure I could get a whole lot farther than that. But yeah, so your role is also kind of interesting because, and I can speak personally, like a lot of your writing is sort of one of the first things I read in the morning because you're, as you said, based in London. And so you're covering news sort of overnight as far as the US is concerned. So when I wake up at 6:30, 7:30 on a weekday, like a lot of, The Verge is one of the websites I check in the morning, and like it's your writing there, like on the front page, often first and foremost. Like what is the process like of like figuring out what to cover overnight? Is there are you coming in with like a queue already, or are you kind of digging around to see what has happened, after the East Coast and the West Coast teams have logged off, but before you've logged on? Like how does that work?
Very variable. It's kind of both of those things you just said. I'm part of a team there's 5 of us in Europe at the moment, okay. But not all covering news. It's right. Me and Jess Weatherbed are the core 2 news people on the European side. Some days we come on and the West Coast editor who's logged off for the night has left us with 5 things in the news queue to do because no one got to them the day before, and we're kind of picking up the leftovers from yesterday and trying to deal with them. Other days we come in and there's nothing, and it is kind of scrounging around looking what there is. Mostly it's about being there for what's breaking. So much of doing news coverage, especially for like The Verge, where there's a really big emphasis on being fast and being first. So much of it is keeping an eye on absolutely everything that's happening, and that's why we see it as important to have this European team who are online during those overnight hours from the US perspective, so that when something breaks, we can jump on it pretty immediately. That obviously means covering lots of UK and European news. The Verge has all that policy stuff. So when there's a European policy story, the EU are doing some regulation, or they're investigating Apple or Google for something or other, that's going to break in our hours, and we're going to be the team that jumps on it. But you also get that for a lot of US stories because the rest of the US team comes on at 8 a.m. ET. But you do see stories that break and announcements that get made at 8 or a bit earlier at 7. So there's often kind of big US policy things we're jumping on because they've been announced at 7 a.m. East Coast time, and there's no actual Americans online yet to deal with them. That's part of why that a little bit. Yeah. So that really is where that like jack of all trades thing comes in even more strongly, because later in the day when the full Verge team is online and the whole apparatus is firing, you're much more able to say, oh, it's a car story that's broken. I'm going to tag our transportation editor, and he's going to take care of this and make the call, do the writing, whatever. But if it's 9 a.m. in the UK and it's 4 a.m. East Coast, he's in bed. So if that huge breaking car story comes, someone on the team has to jump on it and be able to do it. And we have to be able to take care of all that stuff.
Yeah, that sounds both stressful and like reassuring at the same time, where it's like there's always that chance that you're going to fall into the pitfall of okay, like this, GM announced whatever. I probably would be GM at 4 a.m, but GM announced whatever. I have to go cover it. Versus, as you said, like if it's, right now it's 3 p.m. where you are. So if it was this, it's 10 a.m. here, you can ping someone and be like, GM announced they're actually killing Android Auto in every car that's on the road right now. So go cover that. You could probably figure that one out, but you know what I mean?
That one I might be able to get my head around, but yeah. I mean, the flip side of that as well is that if something does break in European hours and we think it's big, but maybe not absolute breaking news, we have to jump on it right this second big. And also maybe it's a bit technical, it's a bit complex, it's touching on an area the European team doesn't feel as confident that we've got the expertise. We absolutely do sometimes just say, we're going to save this for later, because I could do a middling job of writing this story about cars or AI right now, but I know in 3 hours' time, someone who's going to come online and they're going to do a way better job than I ever could. And so I'll just hold it for them.
Yeah, that's the smart approach. I think that's why you guys have such a high reputation among readers. I mean, it's so interesting that The Verge kind of feels like one of the last, and actually maybe this is a good segue, but kind of the last places that has, and this is obviously by design, but a very like specific homepage that you want to go to, right? Like and I've ranted about this so many times on various podcasts and just to people in person, that like I was a homepage like visitor, right? Like I since I became like a normal browser, like person who browses the internet regularly in middle school or whatever, like I had my bookmarks, I had my like, what's new on the AV Club, what's new on Engadget, what's new on The Verge, right? And so on. And like so many of those sites have either like have been sold 20 times like the AV Club and are essentially a completely different website now, and there is a certain level with like The Verge of like, yeah, it's a different website than it was, oh my God, almost 15 years ago. But at the same time, there's more consistency than basically anywhere else in the internet. I think that's really fascinating. And you can see that in the community that The Verge has, which you interact with, I think, more than, I mean, maybe this isn't true, but from an outsider's perspective, you interact with more than any other Verge writer I see, because you have this comment of the day section that you're doing as part of your newsletter. that gets posted. Again, I see it every morning. I see the comment of the day every morning. So what's the process like, and like even determining what you want that to be? Like, are you just, is part of your routine just kind of skimming through comments to see what was popular the day before?
Yeah, basically. I have a weird way that's my day starts now, which is assembling this newsletter, which is, the Verge Daily. It's kind of pitched as the best of the last 24 hours on theverge.com. So I'm going through and picking out the stories I think are the biggest and best that people should be reading. And as part of that, picking out the best comment. So for both curating the newsletter in general and curating this comment, I am just opening almost every page on the website we've published in 24 hours and looking at the comments. Luckily our comment tool sorts by most liked, so I kind of get a bit of a head start if other people have been liking good stuff. That saves me some time. But it really is just going through everything and having a quick scroll through the comments, and the kind of gut check is like anything that makes me laugh or anything that kind of makes me go, they're right. That is an interesting take on it. It's normally things that make me laugh. 9 times out of 10, I'm just putting in something I thought was quite funny.
I love that.
We have some very funny commenters. They have really good bits. I think also as well, I always started out doing that in my head. I was like, I want to do a nice mix of like funny, quippy comments and also really smart, thoughtful little essays. The challenge is I'm working in the format of this newsletter where I drop in a comment, and the only other bit of context you get for that comment is the headline of the story and a link to it. So if I'm going to pick a comment, a joke that responds to the headline is like very easy. Someone will see it in the newsletter and be like, that's funny. I see the headline it relates to. I get this. If I'm going to put in some clever, thoughtful thing, it's got to not be the longest thing in my newsletter, and it's got to make sense without having read the whole news story or big report or piece it relates to. There's a weird juggle, and so it does mean there are some days where I'm like, this comment is incredible, and it makes no sense out of context, and I cannot use it, and I get so sad when that happens.
Yeah. I mean, so if you're out there and you're like a regular Verge commenter, just be reassured that your comment is probably getting passed over because it's too good.
That's too exactly good. It. Yes. You're all too funny and too clever for me. So.
You need to be quicker though. You need to be, if you're getting passed over, you need to like respond to the headline. That's the advice. That's the hack.
If you want to get into the Verge Daily, if you want to be comment of the day, look at your comment and just think, does this work only with the headline? And if it does, you've got a much better shot.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about newsy trends. This is not typically a newsy show, but anytime, I've brought our previous boss, James Peckham, on, and we talked a little bit about news as well, because he is also in a news role at this point. So let's talk a little bit, because you have a collection of beats, I would say, that you're sort of covering. So we were talking a little bit about this before we hit record. Do you want to just start with the Trump phone? Because that is, I feel like maybe your main beat at the moment. It is certainly a beat you are revisiting once a week, which I think is like, it's so interesting. I want to start kind of just by asking, like, how did this land in your lap to begin with? Like, how did you, what is the, I think it's a brilliant thing to do, to be like once a week, like, where's this thing that was announced a year ago or whatever? But like, how does that become your task once a week?
There's a couple things. One is like a glimpse into the inner workings of The Verge. A lot of it just came down to Nilay saying, we should do this. Go do this.
I was gonna bet it was a Nilay. It has Nilay written all over it. And like, I mean that in a good way, obviously. Exactly. Like it has that vibe of God, I've been reading Nilay since Engadget, so like I feel like I can tell when it's one of his things, and like it felt like it.
You can sort of feel the Nilay call all over it. Yeah, it was a very great decision. I'm really glad he suggested it, and we stuck with it. It felt for me basically just because, I mean, so on the team, I'm one of 2 phone people basically. Yeah. We have Alison Johnson, who's based in Seattle. She's been around at The Verge longer than me, and she's officially a phone writer or something, or senior phone writer. I'm not sure. So she's our main phone person, and she has been for a few years. She's doing all of our big phone reviews. If you go and read our reviews of an iPhone or a Samsung flagship, it's probably going to be by Alison, and she's great at that. Part of what I was brought in for was to be the guy in Europe who gets all the Chinese Android phones that don't make it to the US, that are sometimes actually hard to even get shipped to US reviewers, where the press relationships are trickier.
In the context, like I as someone who was in a very similar role to Allison at Android Police, I was right. Like that was my role at AP. It really, if you don't have the context for those phones, and both Allison and I are like obviously primarily using Samsung and Google and Motorola, and we know the North American brands. OnePlus is, maybe the exception, but like nothing. But once you mix in an Honor or even an Oppo, you start to you don't have the exact context for what these phones are supposed to be for what they're succeeding, right? Like what model they're replacing. And that matters a lot, I think, when you're writing reviews. So I think it's smart to have somebody on staff who is like, no, I'm more familiar with this space. I know these companies. Not just that it's easier to get PR connections, but also like you're able to write to a European audience. You don't have to write to a North American audience that is not going to buy this phone.
Yeah. And as you say, I have that context of testing them all. I know if I test a new Vivo phone and the camera's doing a certain thing, I know that that's something they kind of, maybe they're copying what Xiaomi did in the last model, or that, Xiaomi have tweaked their camera tuning and their thing is looking a little more like Oppo cameras used to look like, and things like that. I'm kind of going in between all of these mostly the Chinese OEMs quite frequently. So I have my head around all of them.
You can compare 1-inch sensors, which we don't have.
You don't even get them at all.
2026, not one phone here has a 1-inch sensor. Whatever, it's fine. Not mad about it.
So then Trump phone came about for me because obviously when it was announced, one of the first conversations we had internally, and I know a lot of other sites did, was what phone is this? Like the actual phone they're trying to release, they're clearly not making it themselves, really from scratch in the way that Apple makes a phone itself. They've obviously partnered with someone, probably a company in China, to design and develop this. And there was this game of trying to see if we could, find the original phone that it was. And for a day or two, that's what everyone in tech was trying to figure out, was which cheap Chinese phone, is the Trump phone actually a knockoff of, which we never really got to the bottom of. I know there's some good theories. But from that, it kind of got
shape a couple times.
Well, exactly. The specs have changed. The design
makes it really difficult. Yeah.
we cannot pin this thing down. But yeah, it then kind of got lumped into this, it's a weird Android phone. So I guess it's Dom's problem. Because Dom does the weird Android phones, right? Allison does the normal phones. Dom has all the kooky stuff with enormous cameras and strap-on lenses and camera grips and other
There's
weird
a fun
accessories.
to that, man. We're staring down the barrel of an S26 launch that is going to put me to sleep.
Oh no, it's the Pixel 4a I'm worried about. That thing looks, Sorry, no.
10A. I was just about to bring up the 10A as well. It's like I'm sure I have said this on other podcasts, but I'm looking at that Pixel 10a just thinking I do not understand why this is just drop the price of the 9A and add a new color. They have added new colorways in the past. The Mint Pixel 8 was a 4-month in launch. I just don't understand what we're doing.
The 9A was itself not a big change. That was not a revamp.
I really liked that
line.
phone, but it was, other than the fact that it dropped the camera bar, it felt very in line with the 8A before it. But this one is it seems like maybe they might have removed the little ring around the camera. That appears to be it. I can't notice anything else.
Trump phone was just declared weird Android phone and my problem. And so then, basically I've just, for the last, I think it was September, October, we picked it up again. The phone got announced last June. And then we decided in September, October was when we checked in and went, hey, this thing's late and no one said a word about it. And maybe we should just keep chasing that up and running it down and poking at it and trying to figure it out. So I now email the Trump Mobile press line once a week to be ignored every single time.
I was going to say, I'm sure we're rewarding fruitful experience.
Yes, I love sending that email every week. It's on my to-do list, just email Trump Mobile. It pops up once a week. I do it. I never get anything back. I'm sending increasingly exasperated emails, trying to build a little rapport with the person on the other side,
Yeah, you got to start hey, it's me again.
Exactly. Just checking.
Oh my God. I mean, it's worthwhile. It's very reminiscent of the Verge. I remember in last decade poked a lot at the Foxconn factory in it was Wisconsin, I think, and this feels perhaps more, in a way it's smaller stakes, right? Because it's a phone, not a large factory that's been built and isn't doing anything. But at the same time, this has the attention of a direct connection to the president of the United States. So in a way it is bigger. It's very odd.
I think that's what's great about it. It's like a small story on the fringes of the biggest, most important thing going on in certainly in the US, obviously, maybe the world right now. And so it touches on all of these things that really, really, really matter, and which The Verge covers in other ways, often with a much more serious, careful tone. And then I get to just be there cracking stupid jokes about this phone that doesn't exist every week. And we get to write these kind of, there is reporting, I am digging and trying to find everything I can every week, but also what I can find is usually little tidbits that I'm trying to just have fun with and joke around with. And it's nice to be able to do that on the fringes of this thing that we just know is also big and horrifying in all sorts of directions at once.
Yeah, it is good to see that there is like space to poke at, like, you know, in the face of, of a lot of news. Like, let's not, we have the resources to, like, this is a tech-centric story for us. Like, it is tech, it is policy in a way, or it's politics. Like, let's focus in on this and not take, let's keep at least one eye on it across our entire team. And that eye is yours. But can I float you my completely unserious theory about the Trump phone? Did you see? Did you go to Motorola at CES? Did you get a hands-on with like the Razr Fold at all?
I did not. Allison went to see that one. Yeah.
Right. Oh my God. Allison was with me. I should have known that. She was in my group. I should have known. Alongside it, they announced the Motorola Signature, which is not coming to the US, but is like their flagship for this year. And there is like one of the colorways is this like really ugly, like bronzy gold. And I like picked it up and I was like, this is the Trump phone. This is like Lenovo's the OEM. This is all you have to do is slap a T on the back. You're good to go. I'm not being serious. Motorola, please don't sue me. But I did. That was my initial, like, I was like, you can't make, I've seen that render so many times. That initial, like, what am I looking at render of like a fake iPhone, essentially, right? Like a fake iPhone 11, basically. And it's like, I picked up, it's that color. You can't make a phone in that color anymore. I'm going to associate it with this like fake Trump phone that doesn't exist.
It is, I live in hope of this thing ever materializing in any form. There is a pre-order. It's got my name on it. I think we maybe have a couple because we know we're not sure if we're going to be able to get one to me outside of the US. But if it is real,
no, this is for US residents only. You have to. You really, it's a privilege to be able to buy one if you think about it.
And I really go back and forth. The number one thing people ask me about this whenever I chat about my Trump coverage is everyone's just want to know, like, do I think it's real? Like, is there a real phone? And I change my mind every week. I like really, sometimes the stuff I'm digging up makes the whole thing feel like this giant pyramid schemey scam thing. Yeah. Other times I'm just like, this might be really incompetent. They might just be really bad at running a phone company. And that's all this is, you know.
Listen, it's not easy. Like, think about how many companies have dropped out of making phones up to and including this month. Last month, I guess, as people are listening to this. But in January, like, it doesn't seem easy to make a phone, let alone like sell it and you know, especially in the US where you're going to have to deal with US carriers and certification. And like, even with the connection to the president, like that's still a lot of hoops to jump through. There's a reason that we don't see a lot of Chinese specifically devices like come over here is because, like, you know, I mean, nothing really only launched officially with last year in the US. You had to buy a warranty-less phone through like a beta program, you know, that had 15 or 30 days of post-sale coverage, and that was it. Like, it's difficult. Like, but at the same time, their communication skills are so poor that I don't, like, you end up just being like, well, okay, like, you can be in over your head and tell me that. Yeah.
But this is part of what amazes me. I even, I have that thought, like, well, surely if this was a scam, they'd be stringing people along a bit more, dropping more stuff to keep it going. And the silence is one of the things that makes me lean towards, is it just incompetence? Is that all this is? Is this just a company falling apart? I don't know.
It's all of the above. It
can be both.
It's a little bit of everything.
It can be an incompetent scam. That might be the answer.
There are plenty of incompetent scams out there on the internet. Man. Another thing you wrote about recently that I wanted to talk a little bit about, because to me, it seemed like you had maybe the most fun CES a person could have had, which is that you spent at least a good chunk of your time walking around looking at, as you said, dubious uses of AI and technology. Tell me a little bit about what that experience was like and how you even go about finding weird, like, is it just walking around the show floor? Is it like hearing from other reporters about what they've seen? Like, what is the process of finding weird, bad? I'm going to say bad uses
bad is
of AI.
Bad is often fair. I mean, there's a lot of it. There was a lot of it. So it wasn't hard to find for the most part. I mean, you know, for people who obviously don't attend CES, in addition to the main show, press always go to these little pre-shows called like showstoppers and PepCon, where they're kind of small microcosms where you see lots of companies all in one place with tiny versions of their booths trying to show you off everything. And just walking around those, I went to all three of the ones of those that happened this time, Unveil, PepCon, and Showstoppers. And each of them, I could have probably filled a mini list of like weird, bad AI from going around those. And then obviously within the Verge team, everyone knew I was the guy looking for bad AI. So first couple times, you know, you'd get sort of someone would get a pitch in and they'd share it on Slack, just kind of laughing at it, being like, this is funny. Obviously, we're not going to cover it. It looks awful. And then I'd have to pipe in and be like, actually, please, can you forward that email to me? I think I need to find out where the booth is. I am going to cover this horror show. And once everyone realized this was what was happening, everyone else on the team just started forwarding me these emails the moment they got something awful.
Oh my God.
So
your inbox was just a disaster.
Oh yeah, it was horrendous. And then obviously just like the keeping an eye on what everyone else is covering and finding the time to go see the things that I didn't find, but that some other site had dug up. And I spent my last day just trying to chase up all those loose ends that other people had found.
Yeah. It's so what would you say is like the most, well, okay. I'll put the link in the show notes, but in case people missed this from a few weeks ago, but what would you say was like the number one, like, this is the thing that like was the most dubious use, maybe, right? Like if you had to number the list, what would be number one? The
one that stuck with me, absolutely, and it was the first one that I walked past and was like, that's in the article, was hair clippers. There was this pair of smart hair clippers. And I almost feel bad. In a way, it's not even just the AI that's the problem here. The whole product is just mad. But it's smart hair clippers. For them to work, you have to wear this weird big plastic face mask that like protrudes up, and then this rubber band that goes all the way around your head. And that somehow has the sensors that mean that the clippers know where they are on your head. They know which bit of your head they're currently clipping. Okay. And then the idea is this thing can like give you a fade, like a smart fade.
I was going to say, it's going to only be able to do so many things, right? Like,
basically, they just kept being fades. It can do a fade. Wouldn't you like a better fade? So the idea is it's for people who want to cut their own hair or maybe cut their partner's hair, you know, get away from professional haircuts, do it DIY, and this will do a better job of doing a fade than you can. And maybe that's true. They were demoing it on this sort of mannequin when I saw it. My biggest regret of the show is that I know, or they told me at least, that they were offering real haircuts to real people. And I never got the time to go back to the hall they were in on my last day. And I really was like stealing myself to be like, go do it. This is the job. Ruin your hair. This is what you have to do. You're a journalist, goddammit. I couldn't find the time.
Even beyond journalist, it's just that's blogging. You know what I mean? And I mean that like a good way of like I'm just gonna go do it. I'm gonna get it done, and then I'm gonna go buy a hat, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Like it's not gonna be good.
Someone must have had an AI hat somewhere on the show. I could have doubled up. So the AI element specifically was like, you know, the app has AI to like help you do it. It was going to give you like AI styling advice and grooming advice. You know, the AI would like learn how you cut your hair and teach you to do it better. It would suggest new haircuts for you to try, that sort of thing. All of which just sounds awful. Like I cannot imagine buying a pair of clippers that like use Dubious AI to give me like a suggestion of a bad haircut I never want, and then do it for me and ruin my hair in the process. And I say this as someone who cuts his own hair. So like I am the target market for this. I'm a tech guy who cuts his own hair, and I stand and I struggle and I do the back and it's always a little bit off, and the bottom of my hairline is always a bit shaky because it's really hard to cut the back of your own hair. So a good version of this product, I could kind of get it. I just think this thing is so far away from a good version of this product that I can't see a gap from where they are to where it gets to what they want it to be.
I also just I don't really get who this is for, right? Because it's like, okay, you want to save money and not by cutting your own hair. This can't be cheap.
No, I'm not sure if they ever got as far as saying a pricing. They were talking about doing a Kickstarter launch, and I don't know what price they were gonna land on for that. But I assume not a cheap price.
No,
I just couldn't get over the awful mask thing you had to wear. I just you gotta look at yourself in the mirror as you're doing this, and I just couldn't see that. I couldn't handle that.
I really encourage people to click the link in the show notes and look at this photo because it is nuts. You compare it in the article to a face mask that looks like when you get your eyes checked, they do the air puff. That's exactly what it looks like to me.
Yeah, the little thing that goes uncomfortably close to your eyeball and you got to kind of stare it down.
Awful. Okay. What else is still in your head from I almost said AI from CES. What other AI gadget is still in your head? There was this AI microwave that looks nuts. An AI bartender that I assume is not good.
No, I had a pretty terrible drink from the AI bartender. I had some incredibly sweet concoction that was basically just like tequila and syrup with some soda water to top it up. To be fair with the bartender, I didn't get to try the AI bit for myself because it wasn't working when I went to their booth, which maybe tells you all you need to know. But I had a colleague who go back and he did. And yeah, he asked for a drink that would fuck him up. And it just gave him a tequila and soda or something,
I mean, sure, I guess.
So that wasn't great. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awful.
AI perfume. There was a weird little AI perfume thing. I can't remember if I put that in the article or not. That was this little odd device.
That one's not in here, actually. Tell me about that one.
I think, because I saw that near the end. I think maybe the article was already live by the time I found this thing. It's a weird little cylinder, sort of the size of your two fists stacked on top of each other. And you put in 3 perfume pods. Yeah. And then it can combine different levels of each flavor to create a custom scent. Okay. And then you can use the AI bit of this is that you can take a photo of yourself and it will, from that photo, suggest the fragrance you should be wearing today. So they took a photo of me with the app and then it kind of was like, right, well, look, you're dressed in business casual. There's a lanyard around your neck, so you must be at a convention. So you should have something that's kind of clean and crisp and light. And then it just mix it all together and spritz me out a couple sprays of it. It was actually all right. The funny thing, I really expected to do this and then just reek afterwards.
Yeah,
obviously.
have it just smell like you sprayed 3 colognes on you or whatever. But yeah, exactly.
And I came away okay, you know what? It's not done an awful job, and it is a kind of clean and crisp scent. And I guess this would be appropriate in a professional setting. It wasn't some deep, heavy, cloying kind of old spicy fragrance. So I was like, I guess you've kind of done this, but why would you ever need this? Why would you? The photo thing kind of assumes you're going to use it when you're out in the place you're in. So you're going to carry this huge device around with you, and when you get to the club, you're going to take a selfie to then get it to generate your perfume for you or whatever. Yeah, that was not fun.
It's just sometimes. Some of these make it sound like AI is, I mean, obviously AI is the buzzword, but some of them barely sound like they would deserve a smart, the word smart in front of the product. Do you know what I mean? The clippers are I don't even really see what the AI is if it can only do one haircut. I guess it's detecting on your head, but that doesn't really sound like AI to me.
The clippers, the AI is the detection. And then, like I said, it does haircut recommendations,
Yeah.
It'll tell you you should do, you should have the side shorter than you did last time. It'll look better on you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, are you really going to trust this random app?
Not at all.
To tell you what haircut you should have.
No, not at all. The last one I want to bring up, just because I can't get over how awful this is this chibi Elon gadget where you can talk to a chibi version of Elon Musk, as if you want to do that. It looks exactly like the Rabbit R1, basically, like in your photo.
It's like a Rabbit R1 for kids. It's called the...
Which is
which is bad enough in and of
like...
itself. I could have lived with that, and it still would have sounded horrifying. That one's just called the Luca AI Cube, I think. It was one of a huge number of AI toys. I did a whole separate piece on AI toys and some video stuff around AI toys, because they were just absolutely everywhere. Everyone seemed to be trying to make some sort of kid's toy with AI slapped inside, and a lot of very different approaches to what that meant. Some, it was really kind of like you were just saying, like things where you kind of question how much it really is AI at all. It's so simple. Right. They'd gone so safe with it that you're just like, you're using AI as a buzzword. Nothing here is really AI. Others were more full-throated, but then you're like, well, you've just like slapped a chatbot in a kid's toy, and I'm meant to trust that your guardrails work and hand this to my 5-year-old. I'm not sure about that.
Which like, we've heard stories of like, look, I didn't do a lot of deep research into this, so maybe it's, you know, I should have read beyond the headline, but like, didn't we just have kids toys like telling kids where they can find knives?
Yeah, there's been a few examples of things like that. Kids toys with like just, you know, really cheap versions of this, sort of just throwing ChatGPT in with no safety net. Obviously, everyone you ask about it says, "Oh, we've got guardrails. It won't talk about these topics. It won't do X, Y, Z."
Right.
But you know, all
every
the AI
company
companies are saying
that,
exactly.
Yeah,
they're all saying that, and we still have all these examples of people being talked into suicide attempts because of the chatbot they were using and stuff like that. So why you'd ever trust this stuff with a kid, I do not know. This specific one, the Luca AI Cube, is fascinating as well because it leans into this other side, which is just like super fast and loose with with IP and copyright. And I didn't get the chance. I really wish I had to really dig a little deeper on what they think they're getting away with here and how they think they're going to get away with it. Because this one allowed you to generate these like AI avatars for you to talk to, and so all the ones I saw were ones they created. Right, these are the things they wanted to show off. They thought were good demos, but that was like Elon Musk, which I don't want a kid talking to Elon Musk.
No.
Hayao Miyazaki, which is just
I've been waiting.
perfectly tuned to
talk
piss
about
off
this.
Hayao Miyazaki.
I was gonna say like notorious like curmudgeon Miyazaki,
the most anti-AI man on the planet.
Well, hates AI, and then is also like famously like I don't even know what word to use. Like he's a workaholic who like, you know, if you watch any of the documentaries, like any of the behind the scenes stuff with him working on his movies, he's like a very intense man who probably isn't like good around kids. He's got a very weird relationship with his own son, who is also an animator, who like he famously was like, I think, oh my God, which one of his son's movies did he like famously, he was like, good effort was like his response to the movie. Awful. Oh my God. Cause his son is not quite as maybe critically acclaimed as his father is.
Well, that is a high bar, in fairness.
Brutal. But. Yeah, I mean, like the best animator probably ever to live. Yeah. If you told him there was in Las Vegas, there was a little device made for kids that had an AI avatar of him to talk to the kids, I think he probably would just turn into dust. I do think that's
just crumble away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, horrendous choices there. They back that up with
at least Steve from Minecraft makes sense. That's one of the ones you can see in the image. Like
Steve from Minecraft, Harry Potter, Spider-Man, all these other ones where you can see why a kid would want to chat to an AI level Spider-Man avatar. I don't know that Luca has the rights from Disney to make a little AI Spider-Man avatar, and how that works. But it's a weird world for AI toys there. It is. It's its whole other weird little rabbit hole, but very screwed up.
It's the fun of CES though, right? Is that you get to walk in and like you're going to see some things that you think are really cool, or things that completely catch you off guard, where you're like, oh, I'm really excited for this. You know, or I want to see where this goes, or I can't wait to see what's next from this company. And then you will see a lot of things that are like, this not only doesn't make sense to me, I'm not even sure why it makes sense to you.
And it was a really fun CES for me, actually, because that was basically my whole show.
It's the best way to spend the show,
exactly.
show, in my opinion. Yeah.
Because I'm first and foremost a phone guy. Allison was already there covering the phones, so it was like, I'm not there to be the phone guy.
And it's not a phone show, really.
And it's not a phone show anyway. There was a handful of phones. Allison had them more than covered by herself. We have a great AI reporter called Hayden Field, but she couldn't make it to the show. So they were like, right, Dom, you're the AI guy for a week. Do AI stuff. It was a blessing to me that we didn't have all of like OpenAI and Google descending on Vegas to announce new models that I would have half understood and had to try and cover like technical AI launches with a generalist's understanding of them. Instead, I just basically got to do weird AI gadgets, and that was a very fun but disturbing time.
My experience of attending something like Google I/O in person is like 60% understanding what is being discussed on stage, and then 40% just kind of like nodding along, like, yes, tokens, more tokens.
So many tokens. I can't wait.
So many tokens. We're I'm getting better at it, but every now, especially at a dev conference like I/O, they'll dive into like, you were talking over my head.
Oh yeah, there is a level that always goes past me for sure.
Look, people can go read your reporting at The Verge. I'm sure they are. I want to spend the last like 20 minutes or so that we have to talk about your side project. I think that's fair to call it, which is Braise. That is your food Substack that you've been running for like a while now, right? Like at least a couple of years, I think, right?
I think it's at 2 2.5 years, something like that. 2 and a bit.
Yeah. I follow both through like social media. Your Instagram posts alone are wonderful. And then like, occasionally dip into I'm so awful at reading Substacks.
My inbox is filled with, I star them all.
So many.
I star them all in Gmail as they come in. I'm like, I'm going to read that one day. I have thousands of starred emails that are all just Substacks I've not read.
Not a chance. Well, the one I read the most recently of yours was, speaking of CES, was your Lou's Diner piece.
Oh yeah.
About going to an American diner and your joys of your love, I think is fair to say, of an American diner, which right there with you, man. Like nothing like a diner.
I have a big soft spot for them, and they're just something you don't get. You get these pastiche versions of them in the UK and Europe, kind of people trying to recreate it. It's never quite the same. There's a really specific vibe to a diner in the US that I love.
The more it's like a hole in the wall, the better it's going to be. Like I want it to look, my ideal diner is probably just a place that like if you were to walk by it on the street, you would not know they served food.
Yes.
Which there are in Buffalo, a few places like that where there's one place like probably a mile from me where it's just like, I'm not even sure they're open, but they do not look open. Like when you walk by, you're like, that business has been closed for 10 years, right? And you're like, no, the windows are just dirty. That's all it is.
You got to be in the know. You got to know them. Yeah.
So what's, I don't even know where to start with Braise, right? Like, tell me a little bit about your process and cause this is like, we call it whatever, newsletters and Substack or whatever, but this is like, to me, this is blogging just like in 2026. And like, as somebody who misses blog, and I hope that's never meant in like a negative way. Like I love and miss the days of like the golden age of blogging, and Substack is the closest you can kind of get to that, or Substack adjacent newsletters. What's the process like that you put into Braise? Because I know, from experience, it can be heavy to try to do your own side projects, something like this, when you already write for a living, right? Like sometimes the last thing you want to do is go write another 800 words for your side project, So what goes into Braise?
Yeah, I mean, that last point has been the biggest tension for me in the last year or so, basically since I moved to The Verge, which is I started Braise when I was at Android Police, and as you all know, my job at Android Police did not involve a whole lot of writing. I did a review every once in a while, but I was one of the managing editors. I spent most of my time in spreadsheets and in tools like Airtable, managing other writers, managing deadlines and assignments, editing other people's pieces, and every once in a while I got to write something. And I enjoyed a lot of aspects of that job. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about it. It was interesting and challenging, but I missed writing because writing is obviously why I got into this. I like writing. That's why I'm a journalist. And so at that point, I was looking and I was thinking, I don't know that my career is going to give me a lot more writing from here on out. You know, if I stay here, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which is all spreadsheets. If I get promoted, I'm going to do even more spreadsheets. If I make a move, I'll probably end up on another site where I'm also at a spreadsheet level job. And that's just what I've done. I've been promoted out of
worse.
writing.
I hate a spreadsheet. I really do. Like, you know, unless I'm doing it for something that is completely nonsensical or like for my personal, like I don't know. Like, I don't even know. I don't have an example for you. I'm sure I could find a time I had fun making a spreadsheet, but
it's a
largely
challenge.
Speaking,
yes.
Especially if you're doing it for your job, you're not going to have a good time making a spreadsheet.
So, some people are spreadsheet people. I know a couple, but I am not one of them. I did not relish my time in Excel. So when I started Braise, it really was that like creative outlet or release or whatever you want to call it, where it was like, right, I can write something once a week for me on the side. When I launched it, I was really like, people always talk about when you're launching a newsletter or a podcast or whatever your side hustle is going to be, everyone's very clear that you should go in knowing your niche, knowing what you're trying to do, making sure you've got like a really strong, unique angle that makes what you're doing special. And I went in with none of that because I was like, I don't know what this is going to be, and I'm not writing it for anyone else. When I started, I didn't even need anyone to read it, really. It was just a place to put it. I'll go and write something once a week about food. It'll go on this website. 5 people will get an email. Most of them are in my family, and that'll be that. And then it started to do fairly well. It's not massive by any means, but it started to get to the point I kind of put on like a paid tier just for fun, just to see what would happen. I actually did get a few people signing up to pay, so it started to become this thing giving me beer money. I got a lot of people saying they actually really enjoyed what I was writing and they wanted me to do more of it. I was enjoying writing it, so I started trying to do more of it. I went to doing 2 posts a week because I was finding it interesting and enjoying it, enjoyable and challenging. Then I got the job at The Verge.
Yeah.
And at The Verge, I'm not a spreadsheet guy anymore, which is one of the best things about this job. I'm a writer again. My title is news editor, but really I spend more of my time writing than editing. And I love that. But it does have that tension you just suggested, which is when I've spent all day writing, sometimes I get off and it's like, cool, now I have to write some more for my evening. That's the fun activity I've lined up for myself by choice, is a full evening of doing more of my job. So that then I can go to bed and wake up and do my actual job. So I pulled back a little, and now I kind of do 1.5 pieces a week. I do a review of a restaurant or something, which goes out every Wednesday, and then every other weekend I'll do something a little bigger, a little more involved, which could be, I do some cookbook reviews. Everything's about food. So I do cookbook reviews. I do some listicles, which I resent, but are always by far the most successful and popular articles I do. I kind of started out being like, I won't do lists. And I had one list I wanted to do. I made it. And then the list did really well. And everyone was like, do more lists. Yeah. I was like, ugh.
You know what's unfortunate too, as you know, I don't think I've written a single list necessarily at 9 to 5 Google, but we did lists at Android Police, and the most annoying thing about it is that the second you put something into a list format, it does become easier to write because you suddenly you've broken, instead of one long editorial, you've essentially broken it into like, 5. Let's say you're doing 5 to 1. You've done 2 paragraphs per thing, and suddenly it is like. You do knock it out faster, weirdly, because it's segmented, even though if you just wrote the same thing, it might take 30 minutes longer or whatever for your brain to form, transitions between your subjects or anything. So like there is a benefit to writing lists that I think when people get annoyed about listicles online, they don't see. It is easier for like the writer, unfortunately. Yeah.
You're basically just writing 6 intros, and intros are great.
Yeah.
You can
really
dash out an intro
it's the
any day.
easiest part.
Yeah. But yeah, so so I do a mix. The bulk of what I do is reviews. Like I said, I do one of those every week. They tend to be quite short. Because I write a lot otherwise, it's very rare they go above 1,000 words. I think sort of 600 to 800 tends to be my sweet spot, which I like. I think, a lot of food writing especially can really overstay its welcome. I think there is only so much I can say in depth about a given restaurant unless I'm doing some sort of giant reported trend piece about some influential place and its, impact on the food scene at large. For the most part, if I'm just talking about, hey, I went here and ate some Mexican food, here's what it was like. There's a limit to how long I want to spend doing that, which is nice. It kind of sets its own limits for me.
Well, and I think you're quite good at taking photos of what you're eating, which I am awful at. So it is a skill that I not only admire in your writing and posting, but also am jealous of, because I will go to, if I'm doing a phone review, I will try to make a point to go to dinner because, and this as well, but like when you're doing a phone review, you have to you really have to leave the house. You have to make a point to do things.
It's a challenge some weeks.
It's a challenge sometimes. This is not, it's 0 degrees Fahrenheit outside right now. Like straight up. It is not Celsius. It's what is it? Negative 17 Celsius or something.
Like that,
It is so cold outside. And the idea of if I, we know the Pixel 10a is probably coming soon because it's leaked 20 times. If I review that, or I review one of the S26 phones, right? Like the next time I review a device, it's going to be in this weather roughly, maybe it's a little warmer, but I'm so dreading having to go do things because in the winter, I kind of, in Buffalo, I end up hibernating more or less. And you really have to it's so much easier in the summer because it's go for a walk, go to a park, go to and in the winter, restaurants are one of the easiest, let's go to dinner because I have to take photos of something and food is an easy subject. And then I take these photos and I feel like no matter what I do, they always look awful. And I'm always well, they're going in the review, but I don't think they do a very good job of showing what this camera's capable of. And you do, I don't know if you're shooting on a smartphone or if you're bringing an actual camera, if you're doing a mix of both, but your photos in a certain light kind of make, you have the writing alongside of it, but the reason you can kind of limit yourself to 600 to 800 words is because the photos do as much talking as the review. I mean, I'll say this to listeners, to viewers: don't open Dom's Substack if you're hungry. It is not going to help. You are going to want I've got this Lou's Diner blog post open, and I'm looking at this French toast, man, and I want it so bad.
Oh, it's so thick and fluffy. My God,
awful. I mean, delicious, but awful. I'm so hungry.
Yeah. I mean, so the photos
great.
are basically all from phones. Like I was saying earlier, I have this perk. A lot of what I cover phone-wise is the sort of the Chinese OEM flagships that launch, some of the ones that launch in Europe and some that don't. So I have this kind of stash of those, and I tend to be reviewing one at any given time or another. So I usually have the luxury that I can take one of these kind of Xiaomi Ultra phones or something and use the camera for that to do this. And so I'm changing phones all the time, and that means there's absolutely no consistent processing to these images because they've all been taken on different phones over the years. But I found with that kind of class of ultra phone, I can get away with doing it on a phone. I think you can get away with doing it on a phone and making it look like it's been done on a camera because you get a kind of pretty natural bokeh effect without turning on portrait mode or food mode or anything like that. Especially with the telephotos, the kind of 2 or 3 times telephotos in a lot of these cameras have really beautiful processing now. The challenge is lighting normally.
I was about to say that's more impressive than anything. I'm looking at this the Bon Mi post that is I think your most recent post here. I'm looking at that header image and it's got that nice bokeh you're talking about, but even more than that, in general, your images is just every restaurant in London well lit. That's
absolutely
what you make
not.
it look
I wish they are all dimly lit. It's a plague. I have increasingly, it's quite hard because obviously I work during the day, and normally if I'm going out to be social, I'm going to be doing that in the evening.
Right.
I try and go for lunches sometimes if I know I'm going to be reviewing somewhere because I know I will have a much, much, much easier time taking photos. That's obviously not always possible. In fact, most of the time it's not possible or not practical. And so many restaurants are just, dim mood lighting. I've been to places where it literally just lit by candles and you're bringing your phone out I know this is never going to work. I was at a pizza place last year, and basically the only reason the photos were salvageable is because I had other friends who were taking their phones out, turning on the torches, and then shining them through menus to diffuse the light a little bit over the pizzas for me so that I could get some shots that weren't totally unusable.
You need to send me that post specifically because I need, with that added context, I now need to see what those images look like.
I'll pull that one up for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, look, man, like, you know, your blog obviously is very your Substack is very UK centric, very London centric, right? And so it might not appeal to everybody, but like just in you know, enjoying good writing, or like I think the way you talk about food is like very readable and like makes me want to just go to London to eat a lot of this, right? And I can talk from like I can speak from personal experience that like you know, I guess it's almost 2 years ago now, but you and I were at Mobile World Congress together in 2024, and you took me and James Peckham and Manuel to you know,
to the sandwich place we went to together one time. Yeah.
The sandwich, there was that taco place we went to that was exceptional.
Yeah, that place was very good.
Like I want to say you took us to like 3 or 4 different places that you had like done research on and wanted to try, and like knocked it out of the park every time. So like, and so if you are in London, you should go to any place Dom is recommending. And if you aren't in London, you should treat this like a travel log, like a list of recommendations should you ever make it over there.
Well, I'm actually one of the pieces on my shortlist to do over the next month or so is a sort of a visitor's guide to London restaurants. You know, I think there's a lot of the classic like best of list for a city. You know, if you go on like Eater, they always have like their 38 essential restaurants for a city, and everyone have the best restaurants to go in some city. Right. And I've always thought these lists are in this weird trap where they're like half written for people who live there and want to know where to go to eat, and they're half written for people who are visiting and want to try something else. And I remember trying to do a best of London list 2 years ago already when I started out. It was one of the things I did early, and just feeling this tension all the way through writing this piece, like, who is this for? And I put out this list that in retrospect I was like, this kind of sucks. And so now I'm just very explicitly going to go and write a piece that's like, here's where to eat in London if you're visiting London. You know, if you live here, these are not necessarily the places, or like the spread might be different. For example, like, I don't know, London has one really, really great taco place. I would not generally tell a visitor to London to go there, because I'm like, if you're visiting London, you're not coming here for our tacos, right? That's not why you're in London.
Well, especially if you're like somebody
coming here
from
like the US or
California,
Mexico or anything. Yeah.
Texas, like anywhere where there's like Southwest Mexican, Tex-Mex, like all of those cuisines, people are going to be like, yeah, I mean, it was good, but like, you know, like, yeah.
So visitor, and even if they're not, even if you're coming from France, I'd probably say, you know, come do stuff London's great at, not like the one where we just happen to have this one taco place that figured it out. Right. But if I was writing a list for Londoners, I'd be like, by the way, we do have one really, really good taco place now. You should go eat there. If it's for tourists, I'm more like to say, right, come and eat Turkish food and Indian food and British food and, you know, these other like cuisines that we have some specific strength for, or that kind of thing.
Right. That's interesting. And like, not to make it about where I live, but that is a very similar tension I have here, where it's like I don't really eat chicken wings when I'm not here. Like when I'm traveling, I'm not I'm not tempted to order. I'm not to put down wings that are other. In fact, I some of the best chicken wings I've had outside of Buffalo were in Vegas, because not on the strip.
Never
I'm gonna just go. Don't do that. But 2 years ago, me and a couple other people, Taylor Kearns among them, our former colleague, went to. There's like a Bill's Backer bar in Vegas. So it is like, I think it's people from Buffalo who own it, but like you can go there and it's like it is a dive. Like it is one of the diviest bars I've been to in a long time. But like you go up to a window and you can order pizza and wings, and like we did, and I had the wings and I was like, they know what they're doing. These are made correctly. They're like double fried and like perfectly crispy and like saucy and like nailed it. But like largely speaking, I'm not going to go out of my way to do that in the same way that like, you know, you want to eat the strengths of where you are. I don't think Buffalo has a lot of good like ramen, for example. So when I go to a place that has a lot of good ramen places, or at least a good ramen place, even like Toronto, which is 2 hours away, there's a ton of good ramen there. I kind of make a point to do that. And so I think that's like a perfect list for you to have. I also would suggest, like, I don't know, I would be interested to see you make a list for locals, tourists, and just like your own personal, like, I made this list for me. This is like, these are just my picks, number one, like regardless of everything else, these are my faves. Like, I think that's worth doing.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do a separate list that's the best in London, kind of for Londoners. Really, just these are my favorites, and I'm just gonna be very personal about it. List that's the challenge with that, as anyone who lives in a big city will know, like big cities are really just like a string of cities stitched together. And so when I like put together my personal, like, here's everywhere I really, really love in London, if you actually looked on it on a map, it would be this tiny bubble of northeast London and like a couple pockets like spread out. Maybe there'll be one in central London and one on the south side of the river. Nothing in West London because I just never go there. I'm like a tourist when I go to West London. So you kind of get this weird effect when you try and cover a city as big as London. It's the same for New York or LA or anywhere like that.
I was going to say, imagine looking up best food in Los Angeles as if that isn't 30 cities that are all just kind of next to each other. Awesome. Dom, thank you so much for joining the show. It's been really fun talking to you. People should go read Braise and then obviously should go read what you're doing at The Verge. But I want to make sure Braise is shouted out just because a little bit less known than The Verge, perhaps.
Yeah, there's a tiny difference in viewership. I'm trying to close the gap, but give me time.
One of these days, you're going to be The Verge of mostly specifically London-based food publications.
It's a niche, but I'm going to own it. Yeah.
Where else can people find you on the internet?
I am on Blue Sky. I think dompreston.com is my handle on Blue Sky. And Braise is on Instagram, and I've got my own Instagram account.
Follow that.
And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Letterboxd. I didn't even get a chance to talk to you about movies, but you're a very active Letterboxd user, which I always appreciate you're very thoughtful in your little blurbs, and I just do little jokes. So I appreciate it.
Again, I started a Letterboxd account basically the exact same time I started Braise. My two loves outside of tech are like movies and food. And I really was there like, do I write a movie blog or a food blog? And I the coin flip landed on food, and I was like, great, I'll do a food blog. And I was like, I still really like movies. And so I was just like, fuck it, I'll make a Letterboxd. I think I have like 3 followers. It's like it was for Braise when I started. I completely write for myself. I'm writing these little mini reviews because I just want to have the experience of writing them. I did some film criticism when I started in writing, and I kind of still some bit of me misses that, I think. So it's a fun process to try and do.
Yeah, it's the diary for me. Like, I love being able, I have a couple holes in mine, but truly, Maddie and I were just doing this the other night. Like, I scrolled back to the beginning of my Letterboxd list, which was January 2015 was when I started using the app.
I wish I had a record that long. Now I've started it, I wish I'd been doing it for longer. Yeah.
There are a couple holes, like it jumps from like July 2015 to like November 2016, basically. And then I don't really like January, or no, it was like middle of 2017 is when it starts being like, okay, I have logged, 98% of what I've watched. I'm sure I've missed a couple, but like largely speaking, I have almost a decade's worth of like, you watched this, which is interesting because like genuinely, this only happened once, but there was something in the 2015 period where I was like, I had written a little blurb about like really liking Audrey Hepburn's performance in whatever movie it was. And I was like, I have no memory of this movie. I like read the plot and I was like, I looked at images of it. I don't remember it. I don't know where I watched it. It's 11 years ago. I have no idea. So yeah, I mean, yeah, go follow Dom on Letterboxd. He's a fun follow. What's your movie of the year as we go out the door? What's your favorite movie of 2025?
Oh, mine was what's it called? Bring Her Back.
I haven't seen.
Which is a horror movie.
The horror movie
by the directors of Talk to Me, I think. And I never saw Talk to Me, but everyone raved about it. And ever since I saw Bring Her Back, I've been like, God damn, I need to go watch Talk to Me. And I'm waiting. My fiance hates horror, so I can only watch it at home if I've got the place to myself. But I am a horror guy, and Bring Her Back absolutely worked for me. It's kind of elevated horror, but not in a really annoying way. Nice. It's just a very good, interesting, smart, well-written horror movie, which for me just landed on every level. That was for me. I had 2 5-star movies last year, and it was that and One Battle After Another. That's my pick for 2025. Okay. So you nailed it. I got to go see Bring Her Back then because I haven't seen it. I've been kind of behind on my new releases, so that's. I mentioned Hibernation. That's the next couple months leading up to the Oscars, or month and a half leading up to the Oscars. I have to catch up on stuff. But yeah, I mean, One Battle After Another is it's not going to be beaten. Incredible.
PTA is my guy. Like I'm all like
that one blew me away as well. That was a very I do my little letterbox best of the year list, and I was kind of dragging that one into position and really hesitating over like, oh, which of these is better? I don't know. And probably One Battle is the better movie, but I don't know. Bring It Back, I just walked out of like beaming, like, wow, that was made for me. So, you know.
Yeah. I was so excited because I saw it twice in theater. I saw One Battle twice in theaters, and both times I forgot. Well, the second time I forgot to look at my watch because I was dying to know how long that opening prologue is. Because I walked out of the first time being like, that was either 20 or 45 minutes. I'm really not sure.
I have no idea.
And I find when we rewatched it at home when it came out on digital, it's about 30. But it was nice to finally get that confirmation of like, that's why this movie doesn't feel that long, because you essentially watch a 30-minute short film before the movie starts, and then it's like a 2-hour movie. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Dom, thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And that'll do it for us today at the Sideload. Remember to rate and review on the podcast platform of your choice. Share the show with a friend if you enjoyed it. Feel free to submit guest recommendations if you have somebody that you would love to see come on the show, talk with me. I would love to hear about it. And you can just email me in general. will@9to5mac.com is the easiest way to get in touch with me. Next week, I am welcoming Damian Wild back on the show. Obviously, anybody watching this on the 9to5 Google YouTube channel is well familiar with Damian. We had a really good chat last year when he was on the Sideload for the first time. And honestly, like, we've had 5 or 6 more incredible ideas for Sideload episodes, either before or after recording Pixelated, the other podcast we do together. So we're going to dip into the bucket and hit one of those topics. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's next week on the Sideload. Until then, we will see you in the next one. Bye.